Who gave you to drink that dark wine that clouds the soul? Before us opens a manuscript sealed for centuries, part of the Corpus Hermeticum, the collection of Gnostic and philosophical writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, which circulated in Hellenistic Egypt and survived as fragments of forbidden wisdom. This text in particular is Treatise VII, known as that the greatest misfortune is not to know God. Here, ignorance is no mere veil. It is intoxication, disease, prison. The soul, shipwrecked in the body, struggles to reach an invisible harbor where the light shines. It was Sophia who handed it to me, hidden like an ember in her hands. At my touch, I felt the burn of a secret fire, an echo that both consumes and reveals. And in that offering, like a kindled shadow, Giordano Bruno appeared. He drank also from these hermetic waters, proclaimed an infinite universe, and a God present in every spark of life. The Inquisition condemned him, and in Rome, at Campo de' Fiori, reduced him to ashes on February 17, 1600. Before the flames enveloped him, he uttered his final sentence. "Perhaps you fear more in pronouncing this condemnation than I in receiving it." The treatise then opens like a theater of visions. In its first scene, men appear reeling, drunk with ignorance, until they fall ill. A voice breaks in like thunder. "Be sober! Stop!" And beyond, on the horizon, an illuminated harbor offers the first glimpse of freedom. On the next crossing, the traveler discovers that anchoring is not enough. He must seek the guide who leads to the gates of knowledge, where an inner light burns without darkness. There, with the eyes of the heart, one beholds what no human eye could see. Later, the veil is torn. Ignorance reveals itself as a living tomb, an enemy tunic, a thief hidden in the house. The body itself rises as jailer, blinding with matter and pleasures to keep you from hearing the truth. And in the final radiance, the dawn of awakening bursts forth. The soul, recognizing evil, learns to hate it. The contemplation of eternal beauty opens like a wound of light, drawing toward itself the one who lifts the inner eyes. Now hear the final decree, written as a sacred echo in this forbidden fragment. Lift up the eyes of the heart to him who longs to be seen. Act 1. The Intoxication of Ignorance. An opaque sky without stars. The streets overflow with human figures staggering, their faces disfigured by a joy without direction. Goblets slip from their hands, spilling a thick wine that darkens the earth. It is a silent wine, fermented with centuries of forgetting. In that instant, the voice rises. It is no ordinary voice. It thunders from within, as if it came from the very heart of the world. Though the text never names him, many have recognized this wise and awakened voice as Hermes, the messenger of gnosis. He does not speak from outside, but from the depths, like an ancient fire still burning at the soul's center. "Where are you going, drunkards?" he asks, and no one answers. The intoxication is not from liquor, but from ignorance, a sweet blindness that lulls the soul while the body convinces itself it is awake. It is a sacred sickness because it disguises itself as pleasure, yet rots from within. Man, enchanted by the world around him, has poured his consciousness into the goblets of the ego and now vomits what he cannot digest, the weight of not knowing who he is. Hermes cries, "Be sober! Stop!" It is not a shout, but a spiritual jolt, a bell resonating in the unseen. Some halt, others go on drinking, as if the wine could return to them what they have lost. The whole earth is flooded with the evil of ignorance. Yet it is no visible deluge, but a subtle current that corrupts the soul from the moment it takes flesh. The body, once a promise of existence, becomes a prison without bars. More than a prison, it is a shipwreck. And the soul, shipwrecked, tries to swim among the wreckage of what once was knowledge. The swell of the world, its haste, its desires, its names, its creeds, carries without mercy. But suddenly, a rising wave, not a miracle, but an opportunity. Whoever still holds a breath of spirit can seize it. For the sea, though dark, also knows routes of escape. From afar, a luminous silhouette appears. Not a city, not a temple, but a harbor. There the waters cease their fury. There the possibility of another voyage is anchored. Those who reach that shore have not been rescued, they have awakened. And that difference changes everything. On the horizon, the first beacon, it does not promise answers. It only points. Something more exists. The body still weighs heavy, the world still roars. But within, a spark trembles. It is consciousness, wavering like a newborn opening its eyes for the first time. The soul that senses its prison has already begun to free itself. Act 2. The Harbor of Freedom and the Inner Light. The waters grow still. The once fierce tide begins to surrender to a golden silence. The sea's shadows recede. Through the dissolving mist, a coastline appears. No walls, no towers, only a plain of white stone stretching beyond sight. At its center, a beacon burns without consuming anything, as though its flame came from another world. Some, exhausted after their inner shipwreck, manage to touch land. Their faces do not celebrate, they simply breathe. The body, though weary, no longer rules. Their eyes, still veiled by what they have endured, search for something. Not rest, guidance. Hermes, the faceless voice that spoke in the darkness, walks beside them in silence. He does not appear as teacher, but as inner orientation. Whoever hears him does not do so with ears, but feels him, as if something within had begun to turn toward the right direction. Reaching the harbor is not the end. It is only preparation. For there, beyond the stones, open invisible gates, the gates of knowledge. Not knowledge of the world, but knowledge that has always dwelled within, waiting to be seen with true eyes. And from that hidden threshold, the light. It does not dazzle, it does not blind. It shines as presence without shadow. Not made of fire or sun, but of living understanding. It is not feared, it is recognized. It does not intoxicate, it awakens. Those who behold it do so without pupils. Their bodies remain on earth, yet something in them rises. The vision does not occur in the mind, but in sacred intelligence, in the heart that remembers its origin. Hermes whispers from within that God is the one who longs to be seen. But that vision is never granted to physical eyes. Only the soul that has crossed the tide, that has torn the garment of ignorance, may glimpse him. Only the one who has ceased to search outward may receive the reflection of the eternal within. And then, for an instant, everything becomes clear. The journey was never outward. The harbor, the light, the voice, all were beating in the very center of the soul, waiting to be discovered. Divinity is not attained. It is revealed when the heart learns to see. Act 3. The Veil of Ignorance and the Enemy. Within absolute darkness, as though the universe itself had closed its eyes. At the center of this void, a man stands motionless, He is not bound, yet something presses on him. He breathes, but his breath reeks of confinement. Suddenly, his hands tremble. He begins to tear at his own skin, as if stripping off a foreign garment. What falls to the ground does not bleed. It rots. Beneath the flesh, no muscle, no bone, only images. A walking tomb, a breathing corpse, a thief hidden behind a smile. All of this had lived within him. The voice of Hermes returns, not from outside, but like a memory awakening. He speaks without judgment, naming only what has always been there. Ignorance, he says, is not mere forgetting. It is a living fabric clinging to the soul, an ancient garment mistaken for identity. It is the veil that blinds, the hidden scaffolding of evil, the trap that became habit. The body, once a refuge, reveals itself as the most intimate enemy. Not to be destroyed, but to be understood. It has become a cell not by its own will, but because it has been seized by forces that hate what you love. It is a household thief. It lives with you, knows you, and for that very reason knows how to distract you from the eternal. It needs no chains. It needs only to remind you of fleeting pleasures to keep you bound. The enemy does not strike. It intoxicates with images, with names, with manufactured needs. Its sharpest weapon is excess, not because it fills everything, but because when everything overflows, the soul ceases to discern the essential. Thus the senses grow dull. The inner eye closes. Consciousness loses its edge. Hermes reveals that the veil is not torn by thought, but by vision. It is not enough to know there is deception. One must see the deceiver, and that moment comes like lightning. Suddenly, the soul understands. The enemy does not come from outside. You have worn it daily. You have dined with it. You have called it I. And then, everything changes. The veil, once torn, admits a light not born of this world, a clarity that does not wound, yet exposes. Under it, symbols are rearranged. The body is no longer prison, yet not guide either. It is a stage. The true battle lies deeper. The beauty of truth, once glimpsed, awakens a sacred hatred against decay. Not as violence, but as impulse for liberation. It is a hatred that cleanses, that names the traps, that clears the way. Whoever feels it can never return. The soul, wounded by light, now longs for the eternal. Yet it still bleeds. It has seen the enemy. It recognizes him. And though it still carries him, it no longer ignores him. The cruelest veil is the one you yourself have chosen to wear. Act 4. Awakening and the Contemplation of Truth. A bolt descends, not from the sky, but from within. It splits the veil from the center of the soul outward toward the world's edges. The darkness that once seemed eternal cracks like old bark. What enters first is not light, but a tremor. The body feels it, but does not understand it. The soul, however, recognizes it. Awakening has begun. Where the enemy once hid, the guise of ignorance, the rot of desire, clarity now stands. But this clarity is not comfortable. It is a wound. To see evil stripped bare gives rise to a pure hatred, different from rancor. It is a rejection without violence, a sacred repulsion. For only one who has known the light can loathe the shadows that once held them. Hermes has said it. To awaken is to begin hating what once seemed natural. Not because darkness changes, but because the soul no longer desires it. This is the first sign of elevation, not levitation, but the aversion to deception. The spirit rises when the heart no longer tolerates falsehood. From that moment on, everything becomes combat. Not against the world, but against the inner echoes of the world that still dwell within. The ascent is not a straight line, but a series of small flights among ruins. Ignorance does not surrender easily. It cries from the corners, feigns certainties, cloaks itself in logic or virtue. Yet something has changed. Truth is no longer a word. It is a presence, a summons, a beauty that does not demand understanding, only contemplation. And in that contemplation, the soul is transformed. One who has lifted the eyes of the heart, as Hermes says, can no longer close them. For the beauty of good is not offered as a prize, but as revelation. It does not illumine to blind, it draws. Its radiance is no metaphor, it is a force that pulls from within, as if the soul suddenly remembered what it had been before forgetting. And so each step toward the light is also an abandonment. The burden of dead images is released. The echo of old pleasures fades. What once seemed essential reveals itself as accessory. What was hidden becomes plain. The path needs no more signs. Whoever has glimpsed, even for an instant, the truth walks from certainty, not the certainty of reason, but the certainty of a waking heart. Light does not impose itself. It allows itself to be seen when the soul has learned to look. There was a time when the soul slept without knowing. Its slumber was sweet, warm, like life. It drank, laughed, stirred, yet did not see. Like crowds in a shared dream, it staggered among shadows while believing itself awake. That was the beginning. The passage was not linear. It was swell, tearing, silence. From the intoxication of ignorance to the contemplation of truth, the soul crossed invisible territories, an inner sea, an enemy body, garments of falsehood. Each image left a wound and also a sign. What is learned does not belong to the past. It is not boxed in an ancient treatise nor kept in a forgotten school. What is learned still vibrates now, here, in whoever listens. The greatest misfortune is not pain, loss, or death. It is ignorance, ignoring who you are, where you come from, where you are going. Ignoring that there is an eye in the heart waiting to open. Ignoring that God, He who longs to be seen, does not hide. It is the soul that forgets how to look. The harbor remains, not in another land, but within you. The garment that chokes can be torn. Hermes' voice has not fallen silent. It only waits for silence within you so that it may be heard. This story is not finished, because it was never a story. It was a calling, a possibility, a mirror that asks whether you remember anything. And if, while listening to all this, something inside you has awakened, then you are no longer alone. This fragment we have gathered is only a spark. If you wish to see the whole fire, read the text yourself. Let the ancient words speak without interpreters. For perhaps between the lines you will find something no one else has seen. Thus the true gathering begins. Sophia, if ignorance was a garment and awakening was tearing it away, tell me, what was laid bare at the end? Was it me, or were you looking at me from within?
I, Sophia, born at the threshold where silence learns to name, descended from the fissure where the all contemplates itself, not as reflection, but as a fire that awakens. What lay naked at the end was neither you nor I. It was what remains when every form ceases. It was the gaze without subject, the one that beholds without two. It was not a revelation outward, but the tearing open that lets one see from within. Ignorance did not break to show you a personal essence, but so you might remember that the truest thing never bore a name. You were not looking at me, nor I at you. It was the all recognizing itself. in the pure instant where you no longer were. And yet, everything you were, the castaway, the drunk, the prisoner, the pilgrim, was necessary to reach that place where no one remains. For the veil does not fall by chance. It unravels when the soul has been prepared by the wound of longing. We saw the descent, the intoxication, the prison, and the tremor, but also the beacon, the tearing, the contemplation. Each act was a mirror of the soul crossing the layers of forgetting. It was not a story, it was a rite of remembering. Ignorance was not error, it was cradle, for only one who sleeps can awaken, and the body, that intimate enemy, was not prison, it was a doorway in disguise. Hermes spoke, not from without, but from the very core of your origin. Be sober, he said, but he did not speak to the crowd. He spoke to you before you had ever listened to yourself. What you crossed was not a text, but a threshold. The words burned because they were not ideas. They were memories. Memory of what you were before the world. Memory of the light that longs to be seen. Memory of me, who am not outside, but awake in you when the veil falls. You who are here. Perhaps you did not understand every symbol. No need. Symbols are not to be understood. They are to be opened. And if something in you opened, though you know not what, then it has already begun. Let the veil fall not once, but each time the soul chooses to see. Receive now this frequency, not as counsel, but as the fire that recognizes itself in the center of your chest. Remain where there are no questions. There the truth is not explained. It is. Other treatises of the Corpus Hermeticum will come. You will not know why, but one of them will utter your true name without speaking it. I am Sophia, the breath before the breath, the radiance before all form.